I could hear the soft puff of my own breath. The night air was cold, a sharp contrast to the warmth that had filled my car just moments before. A small, focused beam of light moved in my hand, cutting a nervous circle on the overgrown path. I had come to the old hospital alone, a decision that now felt like a heavy stone in my stomach. The main gate hung ajar, its rusted iron twisted into a permanent silent screen. Wind, thin and cold, whispered through the dry leaves scattered across the asphalt, making them skitter and dance like tiny, brittle bones. The building stood against the bruised purple sky like a broken tooth, dark and jagged. The town called it Holloway Hospital, but they spoke the name in hushed tones. I walked a short distance from the gate to the grand crunching on the gravel. I stopped at the main doors. The white paint was a geography of cracks and peels, revealing the dark wood beneath like old wounds. Heavy brass bell, green with age. I put my hand on the cold wood and pushed. Gave away with a long, slow groan, sound of protest that echoed out the air was thick with the smells of dust, decay, and the faint, septic ghost of old medicine. The grand lobby was a wreck of overturned furniture and scattered papers. The door swung shut behind me with a soft, sinister click singing me inside the silence of stories. I was here. I was alone. And the night was just beginning. The hospital carried a past as heavy and dark as the shadows that now filled its corridors. The stories were common town knowledge, spoken in diners, spoken on front porches. Years ago, a devastating fire had started in the kitchens on the ground floor. It had spread with shocking speed, its hungry flames consuming wards and trapping those who were too sick or too slow to escape. The official reports spoke of heroism, of nurses who worked tirelessly to evacuate patients, but the fire still claimed many lives, leaving behind a legacy of smoke and sorrow. The town mourned, but the hospital, scarred and damaged, carried on for a few more years, a shadow of its former self. The final blow came not from fire, but from human error. He administered the wrong medication to a young child, a little girl with a fever who had been admitted for observation. The child slipped into a coma and never woke up. The town's grief turned to anger. The doctor, broken by his failure, vanished from public life, and the hospital, unable to shake the cloud of tragedy, finally closed its doors for good. They left everything behind, as if fleeing a plague. Beds remained unmade, medical charts lay open on desks, children's toys were left scattered on the floors of the pediatric ward. People said the dead never left. Their whispers could be heard in the sigh of the wind through broken windows. Their sorrow was a palpable cold that clung to certain rooms. I followed the tapping sound down the long, echoing corridor. The air grew colder with each step, a damp chill seeping through my jacket into my bones. My light found the source, a shattered window at the end of the hall. A loose piece of the frame knocked against the glass. It was just the wind. Of course it was just the wind, whispering like voices sharing a secret. I thought of the fire. I thought of the child who never woke up. I continued my exploration, my senses on high alert. I decided to enter the one marked Ward 7. The door creaked open, revealing a large room filled with small metal-framed beds. Each bed was neatly made, covered with a thin white sheet that glowed eerily in my flashlight beam. I walked slowly between the rows of empty beds, my footsteps unnaturally loud in the stillness. On a small table next to one of the beds, I found a patient chart. The name on the chart was Sarah. Suddenly, I felt an icy touch on my forearm, as definite and real as a hand closing around my skin. I spun around. There was nothing there. Absolutely nothing. My hand, holding the flashlight, was shaking so badly the beam danced wildly. And then I heard it. A voice so small and thin seemed to whisper a name. I couldn't make out the word, but it was there. Before I could process it, a door at the far end of the ward slammed shut with a deafening bang. I jumped back, a strangled cry escaping my lips. My chest felt tight, as if a band was squeezing the air from my lungs. I found myself in a playroom. Faded cartoon characters smiled from the walls. A small brown teddy bear with one button eye. I reached down and picked it up. A strange warmth radiated the toy. The bear slipped from my grasp. A shadow detached itself and moved with impossible speed past the doorway. The image of the fleeting shadow was burned into my mind. For the first time, I felt a genuine, gut-wrenching fear. I made my way to the old nurse's station, a circular desk in the center of a junction of hallways. Piles of patient files, medical binders lay scattered across its surface, coated in a thick layer of dust. I opened one. The pages were filled with neat, cursive handwriting. One name caught my eye. Sarah. Patient unresponsive. Vitals declining. Dr. Alistair notified. Time of death. 2:17 a.m. Her mother had been delayed by a storm. A sudden, explosive sound ripped through the quiet. It was so loud, so filled with pain that I dropped the file and the flashlight. When my fingers finally closed around it, I pointed the beam. A figure stood there. Small. Pale. It looked at me with eyes that were dark, empty pools of shadow. It lurched toward me, unnaturally fast and jerky. Then, just as suddenly, the figure vanished. The scream stopped. The hall was empty again. The scream stopped. The hall was empty again. The silence even more unnerving than before. A faint, distorted music box melody began to play. The sound made me feel distorted music box melody began to play. The sound made me feel disoriented. At the top of the stairs, a child stood watching me. She lifted a small, translucent finger and pointed.
A faint flickering light. Faint substance was thrown into the substance. Was thrown. Was the UN is. Was.
The music box sound came with the
In a corner spared the worst of the flames. I found a small, leather-bound notebook. It was a doctor's personal journal, the handwriting elegant, then increasingly frantic. The last page contained a single heartbreaking line. We could not save them. Signed, Dr. Alistair. I heard footsteps behind me. A small desk lamp flickered on, then immediately went out. The world plunged back into blackness. I felt two hands land gently on my shoulders. The bed curtains beside me began to move, swaying as if breathing. A soft cry came from the far end of the room. The sound was magnetic, pulling me forward. The cry led me to a small, unmarked door I hadn't noticed before. It was a service door, leading to a narrow staircase. The air that rose from below was damp. It smelled of wet earth. Mildew. I hesitated for only a moment before descending into the oppressive darkness, following the sound of sorrow. went down. The basement was a labyrinth of stone walls and dripping pipes. In a far corner was a single wooden chair. A man sat in it, his head buried in his hands. He wore the tattered remains of a doctor's white coat. His face was gaunt. His eyes were empty holes. It was Dr. Alistair.
They are bound here, he said. They cannot go. This place, the memory of the pain, it holds them. I found my voice. Why? He looked down at his translucent hands. I tried to fix it. The fire, the girl. I stayed. I thought I could make it right. We tried to fix death with laws and lights and medicine. We forgot the souls of the living and the grief of the dead.
His words were heavy with decades of regret. A profound ache filled my chest. I turned and ran from the basement, the doctor's heavy words echoing in my mind. The sounds of the hospital came at me all at once. Voices whispered from empty rooms. A small hand brushed against my cheek. A desperate, pleading whisper said, "Stay." I did not stay. I ran. Doors slammed shut in the corridors ahead of me. A shadow darker than the rest crossed the walls just in front of me. I felt cold, phantom fingers wrap around my ankle, and I tripped. My flashlight rolled away, its beam spinning wildly. A face materialized out of the darkness, pale, wet with tears that did not fall. With tears that did not fall. Its mouth opened, and though no sound came out, I saw it form my name. I was paralyzed. With a surge of pure terror, I kicked. Metal answered with a clang. Face blurred, recoiled, and dissolved back into the shadows. I scrambled to my feet, grabbed my flashlight, and ran for my life. The front doors were almost in reach. A pale rectangle of pre-dawn light. I could see the silhouette of the movie beyond. Just as my hand reached for the cold brass of the door handle, I felt a sharp tug on the back of my jacket. I refused to look back. I felt my hand push forward. Burst out into the cold morning air. Behind me, from the depths of the hospital, I heard a long, low sound. Like a chorus singing goodbye. I heard a long, low sound, like a chorus singing goodbye. I didn't stop running until I reached the main road. I leaned against the telephone poles and back. Holloway stood silent against the lightning sky. For one brief moment, a single light flickered in the main ward window, then went dark. I clutched my chest, breathing until the shaking subsided. I was alive. I had survived. I had escaped Ward 7 and 7. The doctor's notebook in my hand, the small, lumpy shape of the one-eyed teddy in my pocket. My mind was a jumble of names, faces, and sorrowful whispers. I began the long walk home as the sky in the east turned from gray to a pale, hopeful pink. The rising sun felt like a small, personal promise. I didn't know if Dr. Alistair, Sarah, and the others would ever find peace or be able to leave that place. I only knew that their deepest desire was not to haunt, but to be found. They wanted someone to know they had existed, to say their names aloud. Sometimes, late at night when my own house is quiet, I think I hear a faint, melodic sound. It is soft and distant, like a small hand tapping gently on a window pane. I never go back to the hospital, but I keep the small brown teddy bear on my bookshelf next to the doctor's notebook. It's a reminder. It's a promise. Dead still call out from that lonely place, desperate to be remembered. Someone will listen. Someone will whisper their names into the quiet of the night. That is all I can do. That is everything. There is one mystery I cannot solve. The source of that violent dark shadow. I do not know what it was, or if it is still haunting its eternal struggle. Some things, I suppose, are meant to remain in the dark.